Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Females Thriving Over 30 podcast. Today, I am by myself, so I'm not joined by Jasmine, and we're really missing her. But today, obviously, is her little girl's third birthday, so she's celebrating. And I just want to say sorry for everybody that is watching this and seeing my face like this, but I am so tired. I literally cannot do anything. I went to the chiropractor yesterday and she used one of those massage guns, and like my body is in pieces. But it doesn't matter because today we have an amazing guest, and I just gonna let her introduce herself. We have Alanna Groom with us. So Alanna, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
As I said, like very tired. Very
Far
tired.
from tired. Oh, you're still rocking it. You're still rocking it. Oh, well, thank
God,
you for having me.
I have just been challenging myself to do 5,000 steps a day in June for cancer research. And today I woke up and I was like, okay, I need to do it. I just couldn't. Like
Oh,
my whole body hurts so much. Like even
oh,
like sitting down hurts. So I think like
oh,
all my muscles are like contracting from
oh.
yesterday's chiropractor appointment.
Yeah, it's got to get worse before it gets better.
Yes, yes. So, obviously, we're gonna have here a lot of people that don't know you or don't follow you.
Yeah.
So, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Okay. Well, I'm Alanna, and I am. I'm going to be 45 in a couple of months now, and I quite publicly put it out there on my Instagram now. 4 years ago, I had a really bad mental breakdown. I was a functioning addict. I didn't actually realise that's what I was, but I had been for many years, since probably a teenager. And it took me to have a breakdown to join an online coach. I had been on antidepressants for 6 years. So I wasn't in a great place. I'd hit 40 and we'd gone into lockdown. I've got ADHD and I'd always been 100 miles an hour. And then I think for the first time in my life, the world stopped. Everything stopped. And then my brain just caught up with me. I'd had a lot of past traumas from my childhood, very bad relationships. And I think where I'd always worked and had 100 things going on, it was my coping mechanism with the functioning addiction. And then when the world stopped, my brain blipped and I had a complete mental breakdown. Yeah, so that's where we was 4 years ago, which is not what I look like now compared to anyone who follows me and sees my before picture.
I was just gonna say, like, you don't look 45 at all.
I don't feel it. I honestly feel like my 40s, I'm thriving in 40s and I feel like it's my best decade. I feel like I'm really confident in who I am, the people I have in my life. Yeah, I feel like it is the best. I honestly feel like I've got my groove at my 40s.
I love it. I love it
Yeah,
because obviously we started this podcast as a matter to be able to talk to women that are over 30, and for us, like when you are about to reach 30, is that fear of like, oh my God, I'm gonna be old now. I'm
yeah,
reaching 30. I'm really behind about like everything that I had planned to do before I was 30. I'm not where I wanted to be at 30, but we want to show women, like women in their 20s, that they should not fear going into their 30s, that the other side of 30s and beyond, it's amazing and it's incredible.
yeah,
So
completely.
I'm really excited to talk to you. And what you just said, obviously, you feel like now your 40s is your best.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. Yeah. Again, I don't know if like the blip at 40, I must admit, even going into my 30s, I was in a breakdown of a marriage literally the 2 months before my 30th birthday, and my world had crumbled. We couldn't afford to buy each other out of the house. We were still having to live together, even though we weren't together. So
God.
I think at 30, yeah, I've had a bit of a life. Because for me then, I think at 30, I was like, oh my God, like my world is over. All my friends were happily married and they were having kids and they were settled in their homes and they were settled in their jobs. I wasn't happy in my job. I wasn't happy in my marriage, and I ended the marriage. But I was sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I think for me, thirties was pretty tough. but again, it was just finding that I didn't want to settle. I wasn't going to settle. I think,
Yeah.
especially when you got married at 30, it's looking back now, it's still quite relatively young. It would have been so easy for me to stay in a loveless relationship and have a couple of kids and just think, well, I'm stuck in that now. But there was always something in me that I had to be so certain when I was going to bring kids into the world. I wasn't going to do it with someone that, yeah, that it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. And we spin through a couple more years, and then I met my husband, who I'm with now, and we've been together 15 years this year. And it was a couple of months after my 30th birthday that I met him, and I wasn't looking for anyone. And he just sort of walked in my life, and then for the first time in my life, I actually had this like Scooby Doo moment that I realised that I did want to have kids. I've never wanted kids ever. Like even when people would walk in a restaurant with a baby, I'd be like one of them people. And yeah, it just sort of turned my life upside down. And I was like, wow, actually, think I want a family. So for me, it was like, yeah, this is what it should feel like.
Yeah.
And
Like
then, yeah,
I do believe that when we reach 30, I think it's as you said, like you start seeing like what you don't want anymore.
mm,
But I think that's when you have it very clear, like, I'm not gonna be a yes person anymore. If I had to say no, I say no. You
yeah,
you start having like that mental clarity of what you don't want,
yeah,
which I think in your 20s you were not that aware of, and you were just like, oh, this is how everything is supposed to be. And you reach 30 and you're like, what was I doing? What the hell?
completely. And I think you just get to that sort of era, and you're like, for me, again, I was surrounded by a lot of people that were just settling, and they were just happy plodding along, but they might be in loveless relationships. I think it was a case of through my 20s, it's like, well, you meet someone, you should just then get married, then you should just have kids, and you
Yeah.
should just settle with the job that you're in, be grateful for what you've got. And then I think, I don't know, I think I just hit that sort of milestone, and it was like, I didn't see kids ever being in the horizon, and I don't know, I didn't see a future with him in the horizon. But it's quite hard. You're going to break up a marriage, and you're going to go for a divorce. It's going to cause a big divide. You're going to lose friends, you're going to lose everything
Hmm.
that you had. We'd been together sort of 6, nearly 7 years, and I sort of went against the grain. And so many people at the time were like, what are you doing? They thought he was great, they thought I was great, and they were like, well, it should all work, but people don't see what goes behind closed doors. And I look back now and I don't recognize the person that I was in my 30s, in my late 20s.
Yeah.
It was, I felt the growth really come from when I got with my husband. People might say, well, then why did you still end up having a breakdown at 40? But I think for me, I'd had a lot of past trauma before I'd met my husband. And again, I was a functioning addict then, and again, I didn't really know what it was. I was just doing things to soothe past trauma pains, and was doing it on a daily. And because I was getting up and going to work, and I was always clean and tidy, and I worked like as a PA for like a large banking group as well. I had like a pretty good job. From the outside looking in, I suppose people just thought, yeah, she's got all her ducks in a row, but they didn't realize what I was doing. To be fair, I didn't really know what I was doing, because you just think of these people as maybe addicts on the street, or a tramp on the street, or you don't think of it as just your normal people. And the more people that I
Hmm.
talk to about this, the more people go, oh my God, I didn't know that's what I was. You might be stood in a room full of people, and I would probably say half of them people are probably functioning addicts, so you don't actually even realize it's a very, very common thing. But I was just functioning that way. And then I had my children, and then because we didn't know that I had ADHD, they thought it was postnatal depression when I hit my lulls after the babies, and they put me on antidepressants. But if you are ADHD, it will do the adverse effect. So normally an antidepressant will pick you back up, you'll feel fine. It done the opposite. So it made me suicidal. It made me, yeah, like I loved my children, but you could like pass me a bottle of water and I'd have been like, I'd never want any harm to come to them. But there
Hmm.
wasn't, everything was just, it's like I wasn't feeling anything. And then it took for the complete breakdown. And then that's when I found this online coach. And we filled out a questionnaire, and I put the weight on, and the intrusive thoughts. I was very close to ending it all. The intrusive thoughts were daily. They used to be like monthly, then they got weekly, and then it was from the moment I woke up, I was like, oh my God, I'm still here. I didn't want to be here anymore. And, I've got a very lovely husband. We've got a nice little home. We've got a very happy home. But there was just something in me that was just clawing away at me, that just didn't want to be here anymore. And yeah, it took for me to get this online coach. He rung me and he was like, we need to get you off this medication. I was like, but the thing is, I'm going to end up killing myself. And he was like, but we need to get you off this medication. And I spoke to my husband about it. He was like, well, if you're having these thoughts quite regularly, we can't, if you take this medication and you do that, like my husband could cope. If I had sort of 2 or 3 bad days a month, he could just about keep all the cogs turning. And I think he thought, God, what if you take this medication and it's, I don't know, more regularly? It was, it was a really bad situation to be in. And we just had to put the trust in this coach. Went to the doctors. They didn't want me coming off the medication. But I was in my head, I was like, well, I'm going to kill myself anyway. So what does it matter? What does it matter if I come off of them? Because that was all I was thinking of daily. And I'd planned everything out in my head of exactly how I wanted it all to, it was pretty bad. And within a couple of weeks, just the weight loss and coming off the medication, it was like even it's like I could start feeling again. The only way I can describe it, and it does make me emotional even when I say it, it was like seeing colour for the first time. Get really emotional with it.
It's okay. It's okay. It's an emotional part of your story, so that's okay.
Yeah, it was like seeing colour for the first time, and just feeling, like I'd hug my daughter and I could feel the love. I was brushing their hair. I'd never noticed all the blondes in her hair. The antidepressants are such a powerful thing, and if you get on them, it's very, very hard to get off of them. And I felt like no one was really listening to me with it, with the doctors. It's just like, we're up your dose, or we're, they wasn't taking everything into consideration. And it just took for this online guy to go, let's get you off of this. Let's get you moving daily. We're going to give you a high fats diet. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it literally was, we was in lockdown. I had no equipment. I was in my back garden training in the sweltering heat with like a couple of cans of bloody water or whatever, just out there. And within 10 weeks, I'd come off mental health medication. I dropped 2 stone, and I put a photo up. I looked 10 years younger in 10 weeks. And it was like, wow, it was, my husband always says the breaking moment was, we were mucking about in the house and we were doing something, and this sounds really disgusting, I laughed so hard that I literally wet myself and was like belly laughed, and my husband just stood there and cried, and he was like, I've like emotional today. Hadn't heard me feel like that in a very long time. And I think he blamed himself, but a lot, when you've got mental health problems, it isn't anyone else's, it's not anyone else's doing. Like I say, people, I felt guilty because once I'd had the kids and I'd spoke to people about this, or you'd speak to family members, and it'd be like, you've got a great husband, you've got a lovely life, what have you got to be sad about? People think it's just what's around you, but they don't get how powerful it is when you've got that voice in your head continuously. And I've scratched the surface on so much now. I was suffering from PTSD, and like I say, a lot of really bad past traumas and stuff that I've gone through. I try and use my platform now to break down the stigma, to really break down the stigma. And I'm like, this is it. Like, I've cocked up so many times in my life. I've made so many mistakes in life. Life has never been textbook for me, but every day I get up and I train and I eat well. And my message to people, women out there, is like, we just got to move daily. You've got to just get out in the sun. It doesn't matter what you've got in your bank balance. I literally had nothing, like I say, just out in my back garden, but it can be done. And I'm sort of an advocate for that I'm like, we need to bring things back to basics sometimes, with the, just with the diet and the exercise. It's no fads. It's just a case of, we've just got to move daily. And I think society these days, people are chained to their work. They're not moving enough. Their phone, God, the phones, like, I have a love-hate for social media, because like, social media is a big thing for me. Because I like to push that message of, when I get up every morning, I'm up at 5 in my kitchen with a cup of coffee, and I'm like, let's go. I laugh in my kitchen, I cry in my kitchen. I'm having a good day, I tell people I'm having a good day. I'm having a crap day, I'm like, this is the pits, the mental health's really bad, because I'm never going to be cured. But, I just show people, and I've so many people every morning, they're like, I didn't want to get up, but I knew that you'd be up, and I knew you'd be getting out and doing a walk. I knew you'd be getting out and doing a run. And it pushes them people. And I think for people to see how much I've spun my life around, and such a different person now. Yeah. Such a different person.
I love it. I love what you just said. Like, you're just like trying to break the stigma, talking about it. And like a few things that you've mentioned, I'm just like a little bit curious about it. So did you know that you have ADHD before they got you into those antidepressants?
No. So
No.
a common thing with women, and with girls as well. Girls will have it with the hormone changes. So ADHD doesn't really show in girls until puberty, pregnancy, and then menopause. So puberty, I went through a bit of a dark phase, painted my bedroom black, was very into myself. I'd done martial arts, so I'd always been quite fitness, and I think the martial arts kept me going. But I remember like puberty being very like quite a dark phase. Yeah, I was bullied a bit at school. I felt quite on my own. Yeah, and for me, my martial arts sort of brought me out my shell, but it was quite a dark era. And then you go into having the childbirth. They didn't scratch on it, and I feel like I cringe when I say it now because it seems to be a very buzzword, and everyone's got ADHD. And they're like, oh, I'm a bit forgetful, I'm a bit clumsy, I've got ADHD. And I'm like, you don't really know what it's like living with it. It's extremes,
Mhm.
how I have to have things done, how I am with things, like my overthinking, my panicness with certain things. Like if I train every day, and I've trained every day for 4 years, I think I've only ever had 1 or 2 days that maybe I might just be bedridden. But it'd get to the afternoon and I'd go out in my pajamas and do a walk around the forest because
Mhm.
if I don't move, I'm my world's worst enemy. It's I'm very structured on routine, like the body, and I got into bodybuilding. This will be another bit. Um, but I like that routine that I time when I'm going to eat, what I'm going to eat. I'm
Mhm.
programmed, and programming for me is vital. And I can't really, I'm not very good outside that box. I have to have that routine. Sorry, I'm jumping from subject to subject, but
We're fine.
sorry, back to the childbirth thing. So yeah, so for women, it's had the childbirth, and I think it is just box ticking. And because there isn't enough resources in it, they'll go, oh, mum's a bit blue, mum's a bit down, antidepressants. I remember they sent me to have like a psychiatric review, and I had to go to a psychiatric place when I had my first daughter. And I remember walking in this place and sitting there with, and no disrespect to the psychiatric patients that were in there at the time, but I remember sitting there thinking, well, I'm not as mad as them. Like
Mm.
I feel pretty
Yeah.
mad, but I'm not as bad as them. I just remember being buzzed in this place and having to sign forms and sit there and then do like assessments on me. And I was like, I'm all right. I'm all right. And like another thing with sort of like ADHD is you're really good at like chameleon yourself, and you can always sort of fit in and box fit with people. And yeah, I'd just tell them what they wanted to hear, to just get the boxes ticked, had the medication. I come off the medication when I tried my second baby. Things got a little bit better. And
Mhm.
then I think after the second baby, I never come off the tablets, and then was just flatlining. But this again was bringing on the other addictions because I had no
Mhm.
highs. And
Yeah.
then I wanted other highs, be it whether it was things that I was doing or drinking, that I was doing on a daily, to just get that little, oh, this feels nice, and I feel like, yeah, I feel all right today. So it went hand in hand. So really, it pushed the addictions more because I just felt like death all the time. I just felt like flatlining, but it was a vicious circle because I'd wake
Mhm.
up every day, feel crap. Mental health would be crap through the drink and abuse. I was just a ticking time bomb. So to even think that I'm here alive and kicking is pretty much of a miracle, because it could have ended. And I think I was literally weeks from it. I think that's
Yeah.
the sobering thing now. I was so close to it. I look back now, and even with the fat photo of me, people always say, "Oh, you didn't look that big," and I'm like, "But look at my eyes. Like my eyes were greyed over." And I find this quite a common thing. If you've ever seen more celebrity type people that have gone that extra extreme and ended it, they have this real glaze over their eyes. Any photos they ever show before it happens, they have this grey void over their eyes. And when I look at that photo, that grey void was there where I had sort of shut down. It was, yeah. So maybe someone was looking down on me, and this online coach
Mhm.
was the answer to my prayers. I don't know. Maybe it was fate, because I do know that diet and exercise did save me, and my kids got their mum back within that 10 weeks. And then in this last 4 years that I've been with my coach now, we've gone on to even more extremes. I took the fitness within a year, I'd lost 5 stone. I started influencing loads of people and
Mhm.
just found me again. And it was like, I didn't even really know who I was. And it was like, I had such a passion for just doing what I wanted to do. And like I said, I just get out and do my runs in the forest. And yeah, and then it switched to, I got into doing bodybuilding. I went on a photo shoot to mark an anniversary with my coach. And when I got to the photo shoot, there's a couple of women done bodybuilding. And they were like, wow, you're in really good shape and you've got really nice definition. Are you like a lifting girl? I didn't know what a lifting girl was. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just doing a photo shoot. My family were like, stood up waiting for me to do this photo shoot on the beach. And it was raining and it was crappy out. But I just wanted to do it to sort of make myself proud. My husband thought I was mad. But he was still there he's always supported me with everything. And the kids were like, yeah, you go, mummy. So we had our photos done. The photos come back and so many people were like, wow, you look so good. You look so good. And I sort of said I'd always had an obsession with bodybuilding when I was younger. I grew up with that gladiators era and, you know, the She-Ra era and all of that. And like, I just loved like muscly women and that fitness look. And I sort of said to my coach, do you think I could do bodybuilding? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I want to do it. And he's like, well, you sure? It's like it's another extreme. I think you've got the mindset for it. And this was in the May, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And he went, well, we're going to have to build for a year. And because when you lose a lot of weight, you know, and I was older, 5 stone loss on the gravity. He's like, you need to start building. I was quite scrawny. You need to build a bit of muscle. And we built a bit of muscle. And then he was like, yeah, we'll see how we go. But I'm one of these people, I need to have a date in the diary. And then come back sort of May, June time. I thought, right, there was this show that was up the road from me. And I was like, right, December, I'm going to do it. And he was like, it's not leaving us much time. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And he was like, okay, then. So we went into prep training, which you've got to drop a lot of body fat. We had to take me very lean because I didn't have the muscle growth there.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah.
in my life I did bodybuilding too.
Oh, well, there you go then. But this is probably more for the people that haven't got an understanding of it. So I was very scrawny. And yeah, and I got a first, a second, and a third. And in my very first bodybuilding show, it was a very small bodybuilding show, but still to learn the poses, to get up there. I just got up there and I felt like I belonged. I just loved everything about prep. I loved the community with the women. And I was just like, I come off stage and I never imagined ever to place. And I just said to my coach, I just love this. I feel like I found my vocation in life. And you know yourself, it's a crazy sport. It's not for everyone. And a lot of people were very cynical and they're like, you've suffered with your mental health. This can be a sport that can really eat you up and spit you out. Are you sure that this is a sort of sport that you want to go into? And I've never took PEDs. I've done it natural. It's going to take me a lot longer. I'm never going to be an IFBB pro. But do you know what? I hold my own against girls that are heavily pedded. Again, I don't judge, but it's not for me. Yeah, but I've had 2 really good seasons, and my personal growth in the last 2 years for my age, I'm bloody proud of that, and I
You
love it.
should.
Yeah, and I love doing it. So,
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, like I think it's one of those things when you start, if you really enjoy that first prep and that first show, you kind of like are hooked, and then you
yeah.
want to do it again. And I get it. Like I did it as well, very naturally, and I had to take like about like 2 years off in between shows so I could just build muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, as you said, like the majority are taking a
Yeah.
thousand different things to be able to grow their muscles. But I am curious, like, how did you find your online coach in the sense of like how, like, COVID happens, everything stops, you are forced to stop, and then all these thoughts intensify, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, there is no way out. I want to end this. How did you come up with that? Was like an ad on Instagram? Like,
No,
what was
well,
the miracle that happened there that
so
drew
it
you
was
to
really
him?
weird before the lockdown. I think it was the November, December before lockdown. I used to go to like a group training place, and there was a youngish girl. Oh yeah, she was a lot younger than me actually, who was training for her wedding, and she looked absolutely insane. And I've been following on Instagram for a while, and then I remember seeing her advertising this on with this coach now doing all this training. And I was like, wow, oh God, who's this? I didn't really understand online coaching. I didn't get it at all because I only ever thought that you have a PT and they go in the gym and kick your ass. I was like, how the hell does that work? And then like I started following her, following him through her. And I think it got to the Christmas and I'd been paying for PTs and I was a fad dieter. But again, I don't think this helped with the mental health. I'd done skinny jabs, fast shakes, you know, you name it. So I was up, down, up, down. I'd get really skinny, then I'd hold it there for a couple of weeks, and I'd balloon again. I'd always been a sugar demon, and like greedy for sugar and sweets. So yeah, it was. I think it was like I remember around the Christmas sort of inquiring, and then he was quite scary, and I thought, God, no, I don't know. I don't know if he's for me. And I remember showing my husband. My husband went, he's well scary now. Like I don't, and he didn't get his head around the online coaching either. And I think it was one of them things when I followed him, I used to look for his page and these transformations are insane. And I was like, these women on here look like fitness models, and like they've got like bodies of celebrities, and the price that he was charging at the time wasn't bad. And I was like, how can like just your normal average people look like this? You know, I just thought it was the celebrities to have bodies like this. And then in lockdown, he done a lockdown special, and I remember just seeing it pop up. And God, it was mad. I don't know. I hope he's not going to mind me saying this. It was like £140 for 10 weeks online coaching. And I think my sister could see. I was all over the shop, and I was like, God, I've got so big, and you know, people are out doing all group. You know, everyone was doing Zoom things online with this one and that one, and I was like, I've seen this guy, and I don't know what to do. And I think she could see in me that things weren't firing up. She was like, look, I'll pay, you know, because I had no income. I was working as a beauty therapist at the time, and everything shut down. She went, I'll pay for you. And I was like, no, you can't do that. She went, I'll pay for you. So I don't know if it was the added pressure of she'd paid for me, because I remember signing up to him and I was scared shitless of him. And I thought, oh my God, he was ruthless. And it was like, if you cock up, you're off plan. That's it. And I was like, oh my God. But then it was like, I remember the plan dropping, and it was like that. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And I thought, right, if I can get through the first week, I'm going to get through the first week. Just get through the first week. And the girl I knew from the gym, she only lasted a couple of weeks with him. And she's just like, he's not for me. I don't like him at all. And I thought, no, I'm going to give it a good go. And yeah, I never really looked back. Then we had the conversation about the getting off the tablets and everything else. And I just thought, I can't let my sister down because she's paid this money. So yeah, maybe just the stars aligned with it, really. And it was just, the timing was right. But I was sick of fad dieting. And I think after 2 weeks of being with him, one, coming off the mental health tablets are horrific. Stopping the substances were horrific. Coming off the alcohol was horrific. If they're ever, when I have people, I work for my coach now, and when I have people that are week 1, week 2, and they go, oh, it's really hard, I'm like, you don't even know. You don't even know the extent, because I just went cold turkey on everything, because he was a case of, if you use any of this, you will be thrown off the plan. Like, it's as simple as, I can't enable any of this behaviour. Like, are you going to be able to stick to this? And I was like, I didn't really have a choice. So I was like, yeah. And, you know, even in them tough weeks, I think, just get through tomorrow. Just get through tomorrow. See how you feel after tomorrow. And I literally belly crawled my way out. And I think after week 2, it was like a Tetris block. And I thought, is this all I needed to do in life? I just needed to weigh my food, move every day. And like, you know, like, if my diet was so lovely, I was like, God, this isn't like a diet. Is this, you know, because I'd always been on fads and extremes. And then I was just like, this is freaking insane. And it was like mind blowing, because it was like Pandora's box. I was like, this is all I needed to do through life. It really is that fucking simple. Of like, you know, there was no hidden thing, you know, he wants everyone to succeed. And it was just like, wow. And then I think by week 3, 4, the mental health started, like I said, the little things that I hadn't noticed before. And that's the other thing with the mental health. I was so blinkered to certain things, even like touches and senses and smells. Them tablets had blocked so
Mm.
much, so much.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it would have been a combination of everything, coming off substances, coming off drink,
Yeah.
and that. But I had, so much had been blocked,
Mm.
to be able to feel and sense things again. Yeah, it was mind blowing.
Yeah.
It was
Okay. So
mind blowing.
I think we need to give a shout out to this coach, because also £140 for 10 weeks is incredible, taking into account that there are coaches that are charging almost £200 for 4 weeks. Oh, what's the name of your coach, please?
But this one, so his name is Scott Francis. He obviously is much more than that now, because of this was lockdown, and
Of course, yeah.
this don't go all charging to him for that. Yeah, Scott Francis is my coach, and I work underneath him now as his client liaison. So I'm like the go-to for his clients now. And at the time, he was like, I can't think of a better person who hasn't, you've lived through every extreme. So, you know, I might have a young mum, and they're like, I've got young kids and they've been up all night. And I'm like, yeah, I've got, yeah, get them in the pram. You need to still get moving, you know, but it's a case of, you know, life is going to throw a shitstorm at you daily. And you need to just know how to swim through that. Like, you know, no one's coming to save us but us. Yeah, I feel like I'm on a level with people, because it's like, yeah, I've been there and it's been shit.
Yeah.
And life is shit. But we've just got to move daily. I'm such a
Yeah.
believer in just getting out.
And I think like we do not give that much credit to what it is. It's just moving. Just
Yeah.
moving. It's just gonna make a big difference. Obviously you've gone through a lot, and I think you're very resilient. You have overcome every obstacle that has been going in your way, and you've gone through like very, very low lows. But what do you think has been a lesson that you've learned after you turned 30 and now in your 40s?
Lesson that I learned, I think, in my 30s, don't be scared to shake shit up. Because, you know, you've got the world at your feet at 30. And if something's just not ticking and you're not happy with the job, the partner, don't be afraid to just go, do you know what? Fuck it. What's the worst that can happen? Walk out of the shitty relationship. Like I basically was having to live in my car when I left my marriage. It wasn't easy, and I basically did live in my car for ages, and time was really tough. But you know what? I was actually really happy, and I just feel like when it's quite freeing when you just sort of go, I'm done. It's freeing. So I think the biggest lesson in my 30s was like, yeah, don't be afraid to shake shit up. Like, yeah, just jump in feet first, be it the job, the partner, anything that's not serving you. And if you're ever coming home and you're not happy, you just need to change it. I'd say definitely start changing it in your 30. Don't roll to 40 and think, God, I really should have done that. Like, I think 30, make the decisions of, have a look around your life at the people that you've got in your life, your friends, your partner, your job, and see what's serving you and how you feel about life. And I'm not saying you're just having a down day. If you don't think it's serving you, I think don't be afraid to just get
Yeah.
out of
Bye
town.
bye. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Yeah. And then I think the biggest lesson with 40 is, I don't know, with 40, it's like I say, everything was really good in my life, but it was more about soul searching with me. It was, I think, maybe time to heal me through, I was fight or flight through all of my life. And I think then I needed to start healing me. Don't feel guilty about going on a fitness journey. Don't feel guilty about investing in yourself. Like, you need to really look after yourself at 40. And I would say your health should be your biggest priority. Definitely. Be it even if you're going to a class a week or two classes a week, you're going and doing sound baths or you're doing a bit of ice water. I think just do something that's going to serve you weekly, because, we're all in that rat race. We're all working our asses off, but you need to start doing something for you.
Yeah.
No matter, even if it was an hour a week, it's you need to do something for you every week.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, like, this podcast is mostly directed to everyone that is over 30, but we have also like younger people listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be a piece of advice that you would give to younger people in their 20s or in their teens?
I would love to go back to that era now. I think it's one of them. You don't appreciate it. You don't appreciate when you're
You
that
don't.
age.
You
I would
literally
say
don't.
for my daughters, like they're 10 and 7 now, and when they get to that age, I don't want them settled in relationships. I want them to travel the world. I think don't ever say no to anything. Don't ever say no to anything. I think even when I left school, I sort of bottlenecked into a little job, like being a beauty therapist, and I was just sort of milling around, really. I would say just grab the ball by the horns, travel the world, don't say no to anything, give everything a go. Even if it fails, even if it's a job and you think, oh, that didn't quite work out how I wanted to, don't be frightened to just make changes, jump ship. Again, I just think life's so short now. I think like with any era, it's not serving you, move on. But get out there and just have as much fun as possible, I think, when you're in them eras.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always say, like, when we're in our 20s, we feel like we need to run and rush because we're gonna almost arrive on 30s, and 30s is the end of the world and the end of our lives. But 20s is actually the best time. Like, I would say, like, from 15 until your 30s is the first time, because you have responsibilities but not as much responsibilities. It's the time to explore. It's the time to, as you say yes to everything, take every opportunity, make the mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the time.
Definitely make the mistakes and just learn from them. But like, I think I'd always been in relationships from a very young age, and but I come from that era that I think you just thought you're going to meet a guy that you met in your town and you go and get married and you have a couple of kids. I don't think it's as like that now, but I just think do the girls' holidays, just be footloose and fancy free. I feel like I train a lot of like young girls, and they're like, oh, I just really want a boyfriend. What? And I'm like, no, don't want a boyfriend. Go and travel the world. Go to uni in wherever. Like travel to America. Go and don't settle down. That is my advice. I'm like, get out there and just go crazy, just have a wild
Absolutely.
time. Yeah, completely. And that's how I want my daughters. I want them
Yeah.
to give every opportunity a go. For one the other day, I was like, you could go and work on like the yachts and go and do like be a yacht girl. You could go and be like, work on the planes, like do something. I want them to travel. I want them to just give it all a go, but know that they can always pick the phone up if it didn't go right and they need mum to come and pick them up wherever they are in the world. But yeah, I think that's my advice.
Yeah.
Travel, try everything once.
Perfect. Yeah. That's, I mean, I completely agree. And same thing when everybody says, like, oh, I wish I had a boyfriend. And it's like, no,
No,
no. Spend time by yourself, spend time with your friends, have the best time possible, because then you're going to regret not having done those things when you were
completely.
younger. When you
Yeah.
were younger. Is there anything that we have maybe not covered that you want to talk about and mention, or for people to know more about?
No, I'd say just give me a follow if you want some daily motivation and just keeping it real. Give me a follow because I feel like I bring a lot to the table. And like I say, just normal life. I bring how I incorporate exercise in a very busy life. I factor in. I think sometimes people go, oh, God, you're so lucky you get to train every day. And I'm like, no, like, especially when I'm on bodybuilding prep, I'm up at 5. I can be up at 4 a.m. doing my cardio till 10 at night. My bike's just in my living room. It's a case of I've got to be mum. I work 12 hours a day and I still can work, I still train as a bodybuilder. So it's a case of, give me a follow and I'll show you how we make it fit in a busy life.
And where can people find you? Because obviously we have this one on video.
Okay.
Most people also listen to it like in Spotify or other platforms. Or where can they find you?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram and it's I know a fat loss girl. And yeah, Alanna Groom, I know fat loss girl. So give me a follow on Instagram. And yeah, it's warts and all. It's not all shiny airbrush photos. It's a very real page. So yeah, give me a follow.
Amazing, amazing. And I'm so grateful for Sarah Jane that nominated you to be interviewed for the podcast. I don't know, like if you know her, like you've met her through bodybuilding.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I trained with Muscle Tan, so I work for them with the professional spray tanning at the shows. So yeah, she's lovely.
Okay,
But yeah,
okay,
very
that's right.
flattered that she put me forward. Yeah, she's like, God, your story's so crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was incredible. I know Sarah from bodybuilding shows as well. You know, she used to tan me, and
Brilliant.
she's the one that got me into pageants after
Wow.
bodybuilding.
Oh, that is wicked. Oh, so you
Yes.
knew where I was at the other week when I was prep head and literally, yeah, I didn't know who I was or where I was the other
Yes,
week.
no, I know that. I know that, like, wait, what day is today? Or that feeling of like you start crying because you're cold and
Yeah.
those kind of things. So yeah, when you said, I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. It's okay.
Oh, well, I've had a brilliant time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. And thank you so much for everybody that has been listening and is listening to our episodes every week. Please remember to give us a follow on all our socials. It's at Females Striving Over 30 on Instagram, basically to be in touch with what are the next episodes coming up, the answering to some questions of topics that you want to for us to cover on the podcast. And then on TikTok, we're as well at Females Striving Over 30. And there you're going to be able to see some clips of our interviews as well as very funny TikToks of Jasmine and I trying to do a TikTok dance when we are clearly not great at it because this new technology is not that great for us. But anyway, thank you very much for listening and we'll see you in the following week. Bye. This was amazing. Thank you so